You are not the disability police. Went to the shops last night with my 8-year-old, and as she has a disabled parking permit issued to her, we parked in a disabled spot. As I'm getting my daughter out of the car, some old bitter hag comes over and starts having a go at me, telling me I'm a horrible person for parking in the disabled spot as I don't look disabled, and you can walk anyway. As I had my daughter in my arms, I reached up, took off her beanie and showed her bald head and said she had radiation therapy today. You didn't even give me a chance to get the chair out of the back. I wish she didn't need the spot, and maybe this will teach you not to judge. I unfolded the wheelchair, put her in and walked away. Used to be a carer for my nan. Park in the seniors parking at Southland. On the way out I got the car before nan, old lady screaming at me for parking there. Then up walks 92-year-old nan. I hope the idiot had a moment of realization and apologized to you and your daughter afterwards. I wouldn't bet on it though. I can't think of any scenario when approaching someone about their legitimacy to park in a disabled spot is going to make my life better. It's funny how the dichotomy of being disabled works. I don't look disabled and you can walk anyway. Neither do I, because my disabilities aren't physically visible, they involve my senses. I don't outwardly look disabled, but when someone tries to talk to me and realizes I can't effing hear a word they're saying, their whole demeanor shifts and they start getting very condescending and rude, treating me as though I'm mentally disabled when I'm most definitely not. Check the permit, not the driver. Whenever someone tells me I don't look disabled, I tell them they don't look like a doctor. I used to have this all the time with my mum. She has MS, which wasn't always as severe as it is now. Sometimes she could walk without crutches, but with difficulty and without fail some dickhead would come and accuse her of parking illegally despite the permit being clearly visible on the dashboard. I get it. I effing hate it when people use the spots illegally because they're just quickly running in, but don't go making assumptions about people's health based purely on outside appearances. And you don't look like a massive cunt. Appearances can be deceiving, can't they, sweetheart? 57-year-old with cancer here. I had radiation a year ago and it breaks my heart to see young kids in there. I'm so sorry. I have a disabled parking permit too and am scared about when someone does this to me. It feels inevitable. Parking permits aren't simple or easy to get and there's strict criteria. People need to fuck off. This is the worst. I had a disabled permit for a while when I was in my early 20s for a non-visible condition. I did use a cane sometimes, but not always. The abuse was awful. I hope your daughter's radiation went well and that she feels better soon. There needs to be an advertising campaign to raise awareness and remove ignorance around disability parking, as this is becoming all too common. People just think that the person had to be in a wheelchair, otherwise they can't use it. People with disabilities already face enough without this kind of abuse. We get this a fair bit. Our daughter is in a wheelchair with muscular dystrophy. We drive around in an obvious disability van with a ramp at the back and wheelchair stickers all over it, and people still have a crack. You just can't help stupid. I almost went over to say something once to somebody once when I was like 16 doing trolleys at the supermarket. They had no pass. Then they got a clearly mobility impaired child out of the back. Lesson learned. Not your business. So according to that lady, only people who can't walk are disabled? She's a effing idiot, and I sure hope she felt like one after that. My sister drops her jeans and shows the world the full extent of her visible injuries, huge chunks of missing flesh and bone-deep scars, while loudly talking about the hundreds of surgeries it took to keep her legs. Most of the elderly disability police slink away in shame and no small amount of horror while she asks if she's crippled enough for them. I admire that about her. The irony is there are plenty of old people out there that don't really need them, but have a word in the doctor's ear to get one. My mother is one. She has a bit of a bung hip. But not so bad, she doesn't hesitate to walk the dog every day. Long walk too. But she has a parking permit so she doesn't have to walk too far at the shops. And she's not alone. It's a horrible, Sad reality that this is something those of us with a visible disability can be thankful for. At least we can avoid these jerks. I used to hate using the spaces when my disabilities weren't visible, as I had a few really uncomfortable run-ins, including a vehicle being damaged by an older man who felt it was his right as I obviously wasn't disabled. I hope you and your daughter are okay and her treatment is going well. Nobody needs this, least of all someone already carrying a burden heavier than a parent should ever have to bear, or a sick child. If you have a disability park permit, then you park in the space. If you don't, then get out. But don't police the permits. That's just rude. Maybe help some disabled people by helping to get some milk that's always stored the furthest possible point from the registers at Colesworth. I really hate Able so much sometimes. They do shit like this, but do they actually help us? Do they advocate for better welfare for us? Or for the government to let us be in relationships while on welfare? No. Do they speak up against mistreatment from the police? To stop the normalization of mercy killings, murder? No. But go and harass strangers because they don't fit your gross stereotype of disabled people. They actually don't give a fuck, they just want to feel big and important and have an excuse to have a go at someone. I had to walk upstairs at work this morning to the rear of a big crowd of co-workers, a couple hundred. I was born with club feet and going upstairs is unnatural for me. So I make a bit more noise than a normie. I got stared at by about 30 people and got pissed off from being quietly judged. And the kicker was the meeting was about mental health. I could have bitterly laughed my guts out at all the token BS. As someone with a permit with an invisible disability, I always scared of people like her. Like today, my pain is a 5 just cause I slept in an awkward position. But it also pisses me the hell off when people without a permit park in disabled parking spots. Mind you, I've had days where I've forgotten to display my permit because I've just been having a bad day. It happens. Here's a fun idea if you see some asshole berating a disabled person like this. Either jump in at the time and tell the prick to shove off, or, if they have it handled, like OP, approach the asshole afterwards and just go, damn, that's embarrassing. I'd hate to be you right now, making a fool of myself in front of all these people because I decided to be an asshole about a subject I know nothing about. I'd probably die of shame, that's so embarrassing. I bet you wish you'd minded your business, huh? I'm very explicit in my response. I have the sticker. The government and my GP have confirmed I'm entitled to it and I don't need to share my personal medical information with you. Get the fuck out of my face or I'll call the police for harassment. Someone I know who is similar to me, relatively young, not a visible disability e.g. wheelchair, basically says the first part of my response, then points at her inbuilt GPS. And tells them they are on camera being recorded as harassing a person with a disability and the footage will be shared with police. LOL. Hell is other people. As much as I don't condone violence, I feel people like this need a slap in the cheek. I have had a similar experience years ago. I am a disabled veteran and my friend lent me his new car whilst on holiday. I pull up and park in a disabled and display my sticker. A parking Nazi then proceeds to tell me it's a crime to use a disabled sticker that's for someone else. I replied it's mine and he then continues to tell me it can't be mine as I was young and it was a nice car. After 5 odd minutes, I actually dropped my pants and showed him all the scars on my leg. He just walked away still saying the sticker couldn't have been mine, thinking face. When my ex-wife had major spine surgery, she got shouted at for taking a disabled spot while she recovered. Appearances matter a whole lot more to people than reality. She got told there's no way a tall blonde woman could be disabled. Wish they saw the SCSR along her whole back or the mobility scooter she needed for anything other than a 2-minute walk for the better part of a year. It's always cunts over 60 who are more mobile than you are too. My husband gets this experience all the time in his work as a carer. It's so frustrating. Happened to a friend of mine when he and his fiancée were in their 20s in the noughties. He was parking in the disabled park and got a lot of verbal abuse because of it. Poor fiancée had some serious cancer but didn't look too affected if you saw her. Whilst I've lost contact with them, him telling me that taught me to mind my own business and never to judge.